All right, we've got Wicked for Good, John M. Chu's highly anticipated sequel to the hit Wicked. Now, there's been a lot of hype and anticipation around this movie since we got Wicked last year. And the question is, does this movie live up to the hype? Unfortunately, in my opinion, it does not. Now, at this very moment on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has a 70% critic score and a 95% audience score. So I recognize that my opinion is very much in the minority as people are kind of overwhelmingly loving this movie. Now, that's not to say that I hated the movie, but I did have a lot of issues with it. First, I want to focus on the positives, the things that I really did like about this movie, and there were a lot. First, I think that this movie delivers on a lot of the things you would expect to get from a movie on this scale. It has these great, grand, sweeping set designs, the hair and makeup, the costume design, the score, the cinematography. It's all chef's kiss. It's exceptional. The songs, the performances by Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, everything was like top tier. John M. Chu should honestly be applauded at his ability to kind of rein in all these different disciplines and give us this like finished product that is Wicked for Good. He was able to take all these different pieces and put it together like a puzzle, and it's honestly impressive what he did. It looks great, it sounds great, it's well acted, and for a movie like Wicked for Good, I think that's really what people are going into this looking for. They want to hear these songs. A lot of people are going into this having watched the stage play Wicked. They want to hear these familiar songs that they know. They want to sing along. They want to see it done on the big screen in Dolby Atmos, on IMAX. And this movie definitely delivers that experience. Now, for me, where this movie does falter a bit is going to be in the script. To me, the writing felt very inconsistent. It was kind of all over the place. There were a lot of underdeveloped plot points. There were several moments in this movie where things would just kind of happen without any rhyme or reason. There'd be no lead up, no foreshadowing, nothing from the previous movie to suggest that this was going to happen. And then it just kind of happens. And I'm thinking, wait, what? And this happened several times throughout the movie. There were a lot of these little conveniences that just happened with no explanation. There's no plausible reason for these things to be happening. There were certain characters who were acting out of character. From everything we know and learned about them from the first movie, they come into Wicked for Good and they kind of behave in a way that's inconsistent with the character that we got introduced to in the first movie. I felt like the pacing of this movie was kind of all over the place. There were moments where it just kind of dragged and it was going slow. And then there's other moments where it's going so quickly that they kind of breeze by these major plot points without really taking the time to fully develop what's happening. And to me, there was also this looming feeling that they were really trying to tie up loose ends and loose plot points to kind of get everything where it needs to be in order to line up with where we start The Wizard of Oz, where you've got Dorothy and the Lion and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. It seemed like there were like a lot of things that they had to kind of line up to make sure that we got to a point where it made sense that we were there by the time the Wizard of Oz storyline started. It felt like the storyline was more focused on setting these things up than it was in making sure that this movie itself was good as a standalone. So overall, this movie didn't really work for me. I left the theater pretty disappointed, mostly because I did quite enjoy the first Wicked movie. The script and the writing is just one of those things that I personally really look to the most when I go watch a movie. And unfortunately, the other things that this movie really does well wasn't enough to kind of save the experience for me. But even though I didn't really like this movie, I would still definitely recommend you go out and see it. I feel like this movie, while the story didn't work for me, it's still kind of like peak cinema. We don't get a lot of movies that are made to this quality anymore. These grand sets, the design, the costume work, just the amount of time and effort and energy that went into making this movie. You have to go out and see it on the big screen. If for no other reason than it does look great, it does sound great. The singing, the songs are all fantastic. This is definitely worth seeing on the big screen, even though it didn't work for me personally. I also want to reiterate that everyone else is like loving and gushing over this movie. And just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you. There's still a lot to like in this movie, and you still may love it. But those are just my thoughts. Have you seen Wicked for Good? If so, hop down in the comments and let me know what you thought. And with that said, I'm out of here, guys.